friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am participating in an Instagram hop today, and it is a whole bunch of crafty people, and everybody's making a Christmas card. So we're hoping to inspire you to get your cards made if you haven't already. So I'm making a Christmas card with a Gerda Steiner stamp set called Balancing Mouse, and I'm starting out, I'm just creating a background. Here you can see that I'm using Salty Ocean. I wanted it to be a bright sky background, so I thought I would start with Salty Ocean. I'm just going to ink blend this on. You can see that I used a piece of scrap paper and just cut a little incline there, a little hill, and I'm going to use that as like my snowbank. I'm now adding some blueprint sketch around the edges, and I pulled the Salty Ocean foam back out, and I'm now blending those two colors together. And I'll just add a little bit more of the blueprint sketch and do a little bit more blending, and I just keep going back and forth until I get a blend that I'm really happy with. And I just want to add a little darkness on the outside, so I pulled out Chip Sapphire, and I'm going to go back and forth with these for a couple minutes until I get exactly the blend that I'm looking for. And you can see that brightness in the center. I really like that. And I definitely want to add a little bit of a shadow on the top of the snowbank. So I've pulled out BV00, and I'm just going to flick from the top of the snowbank down just a little ways. I just flick until my pen stops, and then I'm going to do that whole thing. So this is BV00. I really like the light lavender. I usually either use the light BV colors, or I'll use a grays. And now I've got BV 40s, and I'm just flicking out there. And now I'm taking C1, and I'm just pulling that light lavender color down into the white a little bit more. So now I'm spritzing that top bit with my Mr. Perfect PhD mister bottle. That's just water, and I dabbed off the excess. And I'm adding some snowflakes here in the background with some Altenew white ink spray. I almost never spray with this. I usually just tap it out. I went ahead and I picked 3 of the images. This is like a mini stamp set from Gerda Steiner, and again, this is the Balancing Mouse. And the mouse actually on her website, she actually shows the mouse on top of that big Christmas ornament. But I'm going to play with this a little bit. So I decided that I happen to have some markers sitting on my desk, so he's going to come out a little bit darker than the little mice I have seen around lately. I'm using E79, then E71, and now I'll pull out E74, and I'll fill it in with E71. So he's going to be a really dark brown mouse, and he's very cute. I'm using R21 to just give him a little pink in the ear, and I use it on the nose, and I pulled out, I believe that's R59 or R37 maybe. This is R59 for sure. And I'm just coloring in the hat with some red colors. So R59, R37, then I'll use R24 and R21. I don't know why it's one of my favorite color combinations. For reds, I just really like these 4 colors together. And we'll give it a little bit of a light spot, and I'm just going to go over the dark bits again. I'm trying to be careful not to add too much red, because red does bleed. It's the one color that I always find bleeds when I'm using my Copic markers. So I'm adding a little bit of W1 to the edges of the white in the hat, and on the pom-pom. I decided that I want to add a little bit more to make it look kind of fluffy, furry. So I'm pulling out W5 and just adding a few flicks, and W3. And I'll just make dots in the puffy ball on the end of the hat. And I'm just going to use the W5, W3, and W1 to make that fur look fluffier, basically. I did some flicks in the hat and on the hat band, and then I stippled with dots with those colors on the pom-pom at the end of the hat. So I'm going to use the same reds to color in the Christmas ornament. So I'm starting with the R59, and I'm putting a good amount of the dark color in, then R37, and then I'll do R24 and R21 again. And I always have to remind myself, like as I'm doing it, I always feel like it's not blending well, but I always have to remind myself that alcohol inks need time to dry, and as they dry, they continue blending. So the blend doesn't have to be perfect while I'm working on it. I just pulled out a couple of the darker C's. I think this is C7 and C5 or C6 for the little cap on the ornament. And I pulled out one of the darker ones, like C9, to do the little black ends of the bulb, the Christmas bulbs. And then I'm just pulling out a couple of greens. I believe this is G28 and G24. And I just randomly picked 3 of those to do. Then I will pull out the R59 and the R21 and do a couple of those bulbs. And then I have a couple of yellows, Y18 and Y11. And I'll finish that last one off with the reds again. Excuse me. So there is a giveaway on this hop. If you leave comments and stuff on the Instagram pages, like if you go to my Instagram and leave a comment, make sure you follow along and you comment all along the hop. There is a $20 gift certificate being given away from Trinity Stamps, and they've got some gorgeous stuff, so you definitely want to check that out. So I put a little black mat behind my card background there and added it to the card front, and I'm just using some really nice foam tape that is from I think it's from Scrapbook.com, and I even put a little of the foam tape behind that light. I actually really wanted it to look like the little mouse is running down the hill pulling the string of lights with the ornament rolling along behind him. And I'm adding a little shadow so they don't look like they're hovering there. So I'm using W5 and I will lighten it up with W3, but I really want to get a little shadow there. And I'm putting some like marks to make it look like it's rolling, sort of like you'd see on a cartoon actually. I'll add some white gel pen highlights, and I always feel like Christmas bulbs need highlights. I don't often add gel pen highlights because I do try to leave a highlight in my images when I color them, and I'm not an expert at where to put those highlights. So I'm just finishing that up and making sure I did color. I used the R21 to give him a nice pink nose, and that's going to complete my card. Oh, except for the sentiment. I almost forgot I have to put a sentiment on, and I love this little sentiment. And you can see there's some other stamps there. There's a small ornament, there's a small light bulb, and then there's a couple of snowflakes, which I could have used instead of the splatter. So like this is a perfect size stamp set, really, because I've got several images to play with. I can use them in many different ways. I love it because it's whimsical and it's got a sweet sentiment on it. And I could use both of those sentiments together, which is what I'm doing, or I could just use the Merry Christmas one. And like there's so many different ways I could use the pieces of this ornament and this little mouse. And this is how I chose to do it. So I hope you like it. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and click that bell to get notifications every time I upload a new video. Have a wonderful day.